Hello and welcome to a look at a Double Dragon 2 for the Commodore 64. A Tecmos I think it's called, arcade original that was converted by Virgin-Mastertronic. In the original Double Dragon, Billy Lee's girlfriend got kidnapped and he and his brother Jimmy went out to get her back, which they did. Double Dragon 2, the arcade original, was technically an upgrade to the original Double Dragon, but instead of just having levels redesigned, they decided to add more stuff, new attacks, new bosses, that kind of stuff, and it ended up being a justification for calling it Double Dragon 2. Now, in the arcade original, Willie, the leader of the Black Warriors, was quite pissed off by the fact that he got beaten in the first game, so to get even, he kills Marion at the start of the game. But for some bizarre reason, in this version, the backstory is slightly different. Seemingly, Billy and Jimmy didn't manage to beat all the Black Warrior gang members, and one of them in particular that survived, Linda, decided apparently to research into life medicine magic kind of thing, and she started going around and resurrecting random dead people in order to see if she had perfected her trait, also to say trade or skill, enough to actually resurrect Mr. Bad Guy Willie himself, which apparently she did. So in that regard, Willie in undead form goes out and shoots Marion, but for some bizarre reason drags her along to his hideout and puts her in a magical shield thing for later resurrection. Yeah, that is more or less the plot for the Commodore 64 version of Double Dragon 2, for some interesting reason. When it comes to beaten ups for the Commodore 64, it would be an exaggeration to claim that the system was swimming in decent ones. There was a handful of good one versus one fighting games, but this kind of gameplay style, you had basically Renegade, which was decent enough but had a wonky control system and liked to cheat. And then of course you had the original Double Dragon, which looked okay, sounded okay, had an epic title tune, but the fighting didn't work. It was incredibly dull and incredibly uninteresting to play, and of course when you have a fighting game, which of course involves fighting, and the fighting doesn't work, then your game is dead. And Double Dragon on the Commodore 64 is not exactly the most epic fighting game ever made. Double Dragon 2 somewhat compensates for the lack of gameplay in the original Double Dragon, but it doesn't come without its own flaws. The attacks you have available is a punch, a kick, a jump kick, and a jumping spinning kick, plus an elbow strike. The elbow strike, for some interesting reason, doesn't knock enemies down, which of course has always been the power of the elbow strikers, that you can, if you are surrounded, get rid of one or two enemies temporarily by elbowing them in the face, knocking them to the ground so you can move away. In this version it will just do some damage, and yeah, I suppose that's still beneficial, but it is not as beneficial as getting one or two opponents to stop beating you senseless. So another thing is that the attacks are on a timed cycle, so to speak. Once you commit to an attack, you are committed to the attack, and there is a cycle for when you can attack. So basically, if your timing is off at the beginning and you have an enemy fighting you at the same time, then you can get beaten senseless without being able to do anything else but run away. And it's not something that you can't get past by just being a bit patient, but it is incredibly noticeable. If you get into a bad cycle, the enemies will hit you constantly and you can do nothing to fight back. I should probably mention, by the way, that the plot, of course, in this game is to go to Willie's headquarters yet again and beat him senseless yet again. But I sort of gathered that people could imagine for themselves that that is more or less the aim of the game. And of course, because Marion has been kept in a resurrection bubble, you can actually get her back to life, which is yeah. I don't want to ask any questions because I might get an answer. From a technical point of view, I think it's fair to say that the graphics are not exactly the best looking graphics ever made for any system, and it looks decidedly coarse and blocky and a bit shortchanged, perhaps. I don't know whether that's a word I should use in this regard, but I'm using it anyway. The backgrounds are okay, but nothing more than that. And in general, it just feels a bit like the graphical side of the game was I wouldn't say a rush job, but definitely more an afterthought. And of course, I mean, I've been harping on about graphics and sound not making a game, but definitely in case of beat 'em ups, it enhances the games, and from a graphical point of view, it falls a bit short. It's not outright ugly, but it's definitely flirting with that designation. The sound design is average. It doesn't have the epic title tune that the original Double Dragon had, but I would rather have gameplay than an epic title tune, and in that regard, the game delivers more so than at least the original game did. The amount of enemies on the screen at any given point are the same whether you're playing one player or two player, so you can likely imagine that playing it two player is going to be infinitely easier, especially because of the cycle delay thing in punching and kicking and jump kicking. So if you play alongside another player and you alternate your timing so that constantly one of you are jumping up in the air and doing the rotating, spinning, flying, jumping, dancing kick, then you will constantly be able to hit enemies. This means, of course, that the game becomes significantly easier playing it two than playing it alone. All things considered, this is probably one of the better beat 'em ups on Commodore 64. I'm not going to claim it's the best, but it definitely has the beat 'em up gameplay, and it works. It's not particularly pretty and it doesn't sound particularly good, but at least it's a game you can play and enjoy playing, especially if you have someone else to play with. And to finish off this video, I'm going to jump into an invisible instant kill zone. Lovely, isn't it? Thanks for watching, take care, see you next time. Bye bye for now.